I thought about it, the fact that I've never filmed this before, I thought I've got to do it. I just will leave the camera running, it's no big deal. Right, so what I'm after now is an excellent use for my shiny new notepad. Now I'm not putting a huge amount of water in there. I'm going to need a lot more than that in a minute, but all I need is enough that it's deep enough for the meters to go in far enough to work. And this will be my first page in my shiny new notebook. Yay! Because my old notebook, some pages have got things written on them that I'm never going to need again, so they can be torn off and thrown away. But sometimes I've made notes of phone numbers, email addresses and things, and I need to keep that page. So my old notebooks are actually kept, not with anywhere near as many pages as they start out with. Right, now the fact that I do occasionally feed at 50 parts per million, I'm going to try and get 50 parts per million, and that's probably far too strong, in which case we'll add some more water. And again, this doesn't need to be exact. I'm going to be drying my hands quite frequently, I suspect. Luckily this MSU feed dissolves incredibly quickly. Very quickly. There's very rarely any waiting around for more than like 30 seconds. My calcium nitrate dissolves even faster. It's only got to get near the water and it's gone. The thing that takes a bit longer is the magnesium. Here's a little thought for you. If you look on the internet at pH nutrient absorption charts, very soon you'll realise there's some for hydroponics and some for soil type things, and they are different, and they don't differ for every single nutrient, only a little bit, but some vary considerably. And one of the things is the magnesium, Epsom salts, absorbs at quite a high pH, best, and it tails off quite dramatically. So it came to mind because I was watching somebody else who was using some seaweed. Now in my case, my seaweed drops my pH right down to, you know, below 6, yeah, on its own. It doesn't need any help. Well, if I added Epsom salts in with that mix, I'd just as well throw it down the sink, because at that pH hardly any of it's going to get into the plants. So watch what you're doing with your additives, yeah? You can add them in such a way that you're wasting your time. I'm still on the fence with calcium, because some of the charts say it needs a higher pH and some say a lower pH. So what I do is I head in the middle and split the difference. Let's average it. So I'm quite happy that my calcium's going in at 6.5, pH of 6.5. If I lower my pH for any reason, I could be restricting my calcium. So I add a bit. So that there's more there. Whether that means any more goes in or not, I don't know. Right, what have we got then? Starting point. What we've got there is enough to go down the sink. Oh, of course I've only got, I was just going to say I didn't put much feed in there at all. That's reading 227. Well, what we could do then is, rather than waste this can go in my other bowl. If I add a little bit more in and get it up to 250, then we've got one of our benchmark readings, haven't we? It's going to need it. I forgot, I've only got a tiny little bit of water. Just put 3 granules in. I'm trying to get it up by a tiny little amount, aren't I, to get the 250. Again, it doesn't have to be spot on, but I'd like to be quite close. So we'll get that dissolved. So I'm working backwards now, which I could do. What I could then do is, if I get this right for 250, I could then dilute it to take it down to 200, yeah, and work the other way. It doesn't have to go upwards, does it? Because I'm going to need a lot more water than this. But the first thing I was planning on watering today is my very low feeders. So working backwards might not be the best of ideas. Right, now we're getting close. That's 260, so I need a sploop of water. Tiny sploop. Come on. Beginning to wonder about this flipping TDS meter. Sometimes it seems to freeze. That says, you won't be able to see it no doubt, that says 250 parts per million. Spot on, yay. Now this won't be a really accurate pH reading because this water is my normal RO water, so this is going to be about 21 degrees, so it's lower than it ought to be. But let's see what my pH meter says. 250. If that's how fast this stabilises, I am very impressed, because that's gone to 6.46 and sat there. Are you going to move anymore? .45. That appears to be stable. It's not flickering. As soon as you move it, it does. Seems to be settling around the 6.44. So this, the second decimal place, I really don't care about. You can flick as much as you flipping like, as long as the first bit says 6.4. The bit that comes after it is either less than 5 or above 5. So if it says 6.43, it's 6.4. If it says 6.47, it's 6.5. So that's below 6.45, so I'm going to count that as 6.44. That's good. And that's 250. So it means that everything else is now going to be higher. Do I need to rinse that? No, I don't, do I? Don't be silly. It's going to go straight back in the same stuff. Right, so that was 250. So we're not going to need any more feed now unless I put too much water in. So back to the TDS meter, which said 250. I was going to say, it better still say 250. Now what we've got to do is try and get it to drop to 200, and then take another pH reading. 216, not quite enough, a bit more. .208, a bit more. It's going to end up, oh, too much. You know what it's like. Not enough, not enough, not enough, too much. Come on, drop down. So the trouble is, you see, as the volume of water increases, these little sploops will need to be bigger sploops to have an effect, because the volume's there. Right, that says 2.02, that's good enough. If we put another sploop in there, it's going to drop below 200. So that's my splashing water on my new notebook. Right, so that's my 200. You know what I didn't do? Write that down. So that was 250 parts per million equals 6.4. And now we've got 200 parts per million. And that, I suspect, is going to be about 6.5, maybe a little bit more. Let us see. It was a good guess, wasn't it? 6.4849. You're going to settle there. 6.50, 4950. Yeah, 6.49. 6.50. 6.49. That's good enough. So that is 6.5. Is it going to jump up in ones? Right, back to the TDS meter. Now we want this down to 150. Give it a good sploop. And a stir, of course. And the idea being that if this ends up back down near 50, I can then go and use it. What are we after now? We're after 150, aren't we? We've got 178. Or ooh, 155. That's good enough. If I put any more in, it'll drop. Yeah, 155. Right, back to the pH. Want any guesses? We've gone from 6.4 to 6.5. 6.6 sounds good, doesn't it? If it's that logical, that should be exactly what it is. Or as near as, damn it. Right, so at the moment we're hovering around 6.5, 1, 2. See, this could end up still being below 6.55, so I end up writing down 6.5, which means the second decimal place, it'll have to have a little arrow above it. 6.54 this time. Do you remember last 6.55? Last time we were at 6.49, hovering on 49 to 50. This time we're stabilising at 5.54. 55. Don't forget the 6.4 wasn't really, it was 6.44, wasn't it? I think I might actually add the second decimal place in just for this. So 6.44, 6.50. This one I think is going to be 6.5. Yeah, 6.55, 6.54. Yeah, it's going up 0.05 at a time, isn't it? With the decrease. So 6.55 this time. I don't need these second decimal places, nor under normal circumstances, but if I don't write them down now, I'm going to end up with the same writings, aren't I? It's just going to look silly. Right, so that was 150. Now you go down to 100. Not sure I even need 50 really. When I feed low, I normally feed around 80, 90, so I'm not sure I need 50. I would never bother. At that low, I just probably wouldn't bother going down that low. I don't think I ever have. I've fed at 70, 80 before, but what have we got now then? What am I after? I'm after 100, aren't I? Ooh, 1.4. Good sploot this time. As I said, as the volume increases, these sploots need to increase to get the same amount of change. I bet that's too much. No, good. Because if I go too much, then I've got to add some more feed and wait for it to dissolve, which I don't want to do. I think we're down to about 115 now. So we're getting there. I have to open a new bottle now. 112. Right, new bottle. Ooh, quite a bit heavier this time. So I've now got what I could call 3 points on a graph. If I made a graph out of these readings, the next logical point is predictable. Unless there's another factor, it should be totally predictable. Once you've got 3, you can draw a straight line. 108. Oh, it's got to be worth a little sploop, hasn't it? Whoops. That didn't sound like a little sploop, did it? See, that was a metric sploop rather than an imperial sploop, so, you know, that's the difference. That's good enough, 105. Yay! That'll do. And then we want the pH now, which we can predict is going to be close to 6.6, isn't it? We had 5.55, so we should be up near. Sorry, 6. 6.55. Come on, wake up. More coffee. 6.59. As I said, once you get a set of 3, you should be able to draw a straight line through it, and that is 6.6. Spot on. It's flashing between 5.9 and 6.6. So, first of all, this is consistently moving in a set direction for a set reason. Yeah, in other words, the logic of the differences I'm giving that have given me predictable readings, which means it's reasonably accurate over the range I'm using. So that was 6.6, wasn't it? Yes, so I won't bother with 50. I just don't need it. Oh, more coffee. I've got some here going cold. So what I've got then, in my really bad handwriting in great big letters so I can see it from a distance, 100 parts per million is going to come out at a pH of 6.6, 6.60, we're going to use that second decimal place. 150 parts per million, 6.55, so it's gone up 0.5, yeah? 200 parts per million, increase of 50 each time, it's then gone, sorry, we're heading downwards, not upwards. Perhaps I ought to just get on and drink this coffee. Still morning yet, still AM. Right, so we've then come down from 6.55 to 6.50, a drop of 0.5, and then up to 250 parts per million. We've dropped, okay, it's 0.01 0.1 different, but was it? That was flashing between 6.44 and 6.45, wasn't it? Yeah? So, at 50 parts per million, it will be 6.65. At 300 parts per million, it will be 6.4. And that's without doing any measurement, because once you get your line, there's no reason why it shouldn't continue ad infinitum. So I could now do 350, 400, 450, 500, but I don't have a feed that strong, so I don't need to. 300 is quite a high level of feed for me. That doesn't happen often. So that's my, these are now my benchmark figures. So any time when I'm knocking up some food, I mean, if I wanted 120 parts per million, I can still use this because it's going to be somewhere between those two. Well, if it's out by more than that, then the meter's starting to go, which could be the batteries, it could need recalibrating, but it tells me there's something a bit iffy, and that's all I need to know. And if it isn't, then I don't need to know. Right, now I need some... You're going to love this, aren't you? See, I've just been using that in feed, haven't I? Yeah? Do I clean it? Do I have? I've never done anything with my TDS meter apart from use it, on the grounds that when I use it, it gets a good slosh around in whatever is there. So whatever's possibly a bit of residual on that bulb is going to get dissolved and washed off anyway to get the reading I want. So I just don't mess with that. They're just sturdy. Whereas with this, as it's new and it says to do so, what we will do now, because it's been sat in fertiliser-y type stuff, even though it's not very strong, the last bit of fertiliser that this pH meter went in, you know, it's incredibly weak. Chances of it leaving any residual on the bulb are pretty slim, but it says give it a rinse and dry it off. So that's what we will do. Drying the outside is not the important bit, but what we need is a nice little narrow bit of tissue to just go up round the bulb. Just gently dry it off, because that's what it says to do. This, although it's only 15 quid's worth, or between 15 and 20 let's say, it came with a 1-year guarantee. So the people who made this are prepared to replace it if it goes wrong, yeah, at their expense, and they told me to clean and dry the bulb when I finish with it. Yeah, if I don't do that, number one, I've invalidated the warranty by not doing as I'm told, and number two, if it says to do that, why do I think I know better? Because I don't. And even if I thought I did, I'd still go back to that guarantee. If they say store it dry and I store it in a storage solution, I've lost my guarantee. And if they're prepared to offer that guarantee and put in the instructions in writing that it needs to be stored dry, that's to back up their guarantee, isn't it? Yeah? If that was a stupid instruction and this fails because it hasn't been stored in a storage solution, like some people, I can hear them talking in the background, muttering, yeah, well then they're going to be replacing the units inside the guarantee very frequently, aren't they? And I doubt if they are, or they'd have gone out of business by now. Therefore, this particular model, because they're not all the same, says to store dry. And that's what I shall do. It's not, as far as I'm concerned, even open to debate. Oh, right, so we've now got some water at 100 parts per million to water my shady lot. Sorry, that was just RO water. You can tell how accurate I want it. I'm quite happy to chuck a bit of RO water in it and not remeasure it. I don't need it that accurate. All I need to know is that that is around 100 parts per million, and you know, and there's little there now. I could actually add some more in and take it down a little bit more, but I'm happy with that. And the fact that that's going in my shady lot, the majority of those are in small bark and moss, and like I've said before, anytime you get near that sphagnum moss, you can guarantee that when you've watered something at a certain pH, the water pH level in the pot is going to drop down. So I know that this is at 6.6, and that's about what I aim at for my cooler, shadier ones, on the grounds that within 24 hours they're not going to be dry, they're still going to be quite wet, but the pH of the residual water in the pot will have dropped. So they get some nutrient absorption at 6.6 when I water them, especially if they've actually got quite dry, because they'll suck that straight in, and then they will top up their nutrients from whatever's left as the pH drops. So instead of watering at a high pH and then watering at a low pH to get that swing, in those type of medias, I don't need to. They don't dry fast enough. So they're getting a range of pH from the same watering. That ain't going to happen in my holy clay pots with just bark. You know, they get what they're given at that pH, and it don't hang around long enough to change much at all. So if I want a lower pH or a higher pH, I have to do that for those type of pots. So there we go. And I've got my benchmarks. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with the stability of that, the rate of change given a set of feed levels that were changing at the same rate, that changed at the same rate. As I said, once you get 3 points, you can predict a graph. And by adding a 4th point in, you can almost guarantee it, unless there's another variable that you haven't thought of. But in this case there isn't. So we'll run with that. Happy with that. Yeah. Now all we've got to do is see if it stays stable and keeps that reading over a long period of time. If it stays reasonably stable for a couple of months, I'll be happy, because I've seen reviews of quite expensive pH meters heading up towards 100 quid. And they need recalibrating incredibly frequently, because they not only go off, they go off by a fair bit. So, you know, get what you pay for, they say, but maybe not. Maybe the cheap and cheerful, providing it can remain stable and be looked after according to instructions, is good enough for what we want. So there you go.